No matter how full my closet gets, I swear I have nothing that I want to wear, which is why I'm super grateful for Armoire, because with their clothing rental membership, I get to have access to high quality, unique brands tailored just for me. All I had to do was take a 5-minute style quiz, and it was scary accurate with how much they knew my style, and by some kind of magic, it was delivered at my door within 2 days. If I want to try something new or swap out styles, I just send it. No laundry required. Best thing. Armoire is great for so many reasons. It can help define your personal style. It's super spot on. And also it's sustainable because I don't have to feel bad about if I wear an outfit one time and I just want to try something new. I can rent things, try them out, and keep swapping and not have to worry about waste. Plus, you're always going to have something to wear without hassle or clutter in your closet, which is what I really relate to. And no matter what occasion you have, whether it's a date or a work conference or a black tie event, you'll be the best dressed person in the room without even stepping a foot into the fitting room. This is fantastic because I've literally bought an entire outfit before just to go to one party. Armoire can also help if your body is changing, whether that's a fitness journey or during pregnancy. I know I've recommended this to a lot of the new moms that I know in my life, because your body's changing and you want to feel great and amazing. And one of my favorite things is that Armoire is women owned and led. They even spotlight women owned designers on their website. Right now, our listeners can give Armoire a try and get up to 50% off their first month. That is up to $125 off. Just visit armoire.style/book talk. That's Armoire, ARMOIRE.style/book talk, BOOKTALK, to get 50% off your first month.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Are we still on the trail? Is this pack getting heavier? More switchbacks? Why am I doing this?
At REI Co-op, we believe there are places within ourselves
Just a little further. You got this.
that we find only outside.
Wow. Look at the stars. This is incredible.
We have the gear, inspiration, and advice to help you get there. REI Co-op. Visit rei.com.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, your besties with a literary podcast that deep dives into your favorite novels.
Today we're taking a break to talk to one of our favorite authors, Hannah Nicole Maehre.
Hannah Nicole Maehre, or as TikTok knows her, Hannah Nicole Maehre, is a fantasy romance author and book talker with a propensity for villains. When she's not creating bookish comedy skits about villains and assistants, she's writing to Taylor Swift songs. Her biggest passions in life include romance, magic, laughter, and finding ways to include them all in everything she creates. Most days you can find her with her head in the clouds and a pen in her hand. That was not me. That's her bio.
It's her bio.
Welcome to the podcast, Hannah. Yay!
Yay! Thank you. I'm so
We're gonna
excited.
pretend like we haven't been chatting for 20 minutes.
We could just repeat the whole
I
conversation.
know. So the whole thing, Tristan's dick is no. We'll just leave it empty and have them fill in the blanks.
Yeah. You could just take your guesses based on what you
Preference, based on
Or
preference.
based on preference. This
Like,
is also true.
And no one knows what I just said because I just said is. The answer could be colorful. Could
So
be,
true.
you know,
Textured.
ribbed for his and her pleasure. Like, you know what I mean? It's
I plan for variance.
I'm so sorry. I did not mean to descend this into chaos
No, I'm
within
just,
the
like,
first.
thinking about Ice Planet Barbarians.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. I'm like, it's blue and ribbed. No one was expecting that.
Oh, my favorite thing is explaining that book to people that have never heard of it because it's so fun to like just watch their reaction. There's always such wild reactions, like
Yeah. Please
on
tell
either
me
end perspective.
you've read Dragon's Bride.
No, but I've heard of it. No. Oh my gosh, this is funny though because my mom came with me to a Polycon this past year and it was my first time there and it was her first time at a romance book convention and mine as well, but I was like prepared to see all the different genres. She doesn't know like many genres outside of like 50 Shades. Like
Yeah.
that's like
Aw.
her. Yeah, I know. I'm like, girl, there's so much more now.
Yeah.
My friend Jeanette was like, I'm gonna take your mom down the monster aisle. And I went, oh, okay. And she came back like kind of dazed. And like, she sat down and she went, I saw some stuff. And I went, I bet you did. I was like, what'd you think? And she was like, I'm just confused because if it's a dinosaur, then how? I was like, don't make me explain it. And then, oh, she was so confused. And then somebody told her about the dragon one, and she went, now how does that work? Because that has to be difficult. Like, she wasn't even, like, alarmed by it. She was just logistically confused.
Because it has 2 dicks.
Right. She's like, I don't understand if it's, like, a dragon and it's big, and then how does it... And she's, like, physiologically confused. And I'm like, this is so the least of the problems.
You know, the world has answered, like, that world answers it, and the answer is a medicinal herb that helps repair.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Honestly, kind
Consider
of
it.
iconic.
Yeah,
Slay.
right?
Like, truly, I would not doubt that she downloaded like 6 of those books as soon as we got home.
In that case, I would like to recommend Minotaur Milking Farm. Just going to throw that out there.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
a name.
What? I think it's like Morning Milking Farm too, or something like that. But yeah.
Whoever came up with that, I want to like have lunch
Genius.
with them and just talk to them for a while. Like,
I know.
like,
It's like
what a brain, what a mind.
visionary.
What a mind.
Visionary, some might say.
I swear, I would say that's visionary for sure. I'm kidding. That's incredible.
So other than monster romance, which your book is not, your series is
No,
not a monster romance.
Unfortunately.
Amy, feel free to dive into the first one.
Sure. I'm wondering if we shouldn't start with a heavy-hitting question and maybe a lighter question.
You know what? Question 3 might be a great one since...
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So Hannah, in a world of smutty romantasy books, your book doesn't have graphic sex scenes, nor does it feel like we need it. And that's something we know other people really, really, we also really, really value. I don't mean to. People value, generic people value. But
generic people value.
I don't mean to shame anybody. My apologies.
You're just saying generally.
Generally, that's what I mean. Generally, people value.
We know what you mean.
Yeah. At the same time, though, I do feel like Apprentice was like one little tiny notch up compared to Assistant. And I felt like that was a really fine line that you walked. How intentional was that? How did you like keep it all contained
and navigate that? Yeah.
All on purpose, but also on accident. And the best way I can think to explain this is because people are like, when are they gonna, like, when is stuff gonna pick up? Like, when is it gonna happen? And I think people are assuming that I'm like dragging it out on purpose. I'm trying to get them to do it. Like, every page, I'm like, please, everyone's mad at me. Like, just do something. Like, I don't care what it is, what you're doing. Like, just let's move this along. It is literally like I'm forcing their heads together like this, and I'm like, please, you. And it wasn't on purpose. Like, when I went in to go write the series, I wasn't like, there's going to be no spice, or I wasn't like, there's going to be spice eventually. I was sort of had the mind going in where I was like, I'm going to let what happens naturally happen. And if it doesn't fit, I'm not going to force it. Not to put...
Not going to force it in.
No pun intended. Or maybe, who knows? Yeah, I think that when I went in to write it, though, I was kind of the mind where I was like, it's going to amp up with each book just because it's a slow burn, and that's just how slow burns naturally progress. Like, yeah. It didn't feel like they would go from like nothing to like a full dive into like intimate moments. And I don't think that that's right for the characters either. Like, there were truly times where my editor would suggest, like, at the end of book 1, there's a scene where they hug. This isn't really a spoiler, but they kind of have an almost kiss. I know the hug's so scandalous. They have an almost kiss moment, and that was because my editor suggested that they kiss there, and I literally was like, they can't. It just doesn't make sense. He wouldn't kiss her here. Mm-hmm. He's already feeling like a little insecure, and I could have just done it, but I was like, I can't do that because it doesn't feel right. I feel like I wouldn't be honoring the characters, and these characters feel feel like real people to me. Like they're very visceral and I'm very close to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not something he would do. And it was similar in a scene in book 2 where there's another almost kiss scene in the middle of the book. And that was another scene. My editor was like, they should kiss here. And I was like, they can't though, because she's like kind of slightly, I'm not going to say why, but she was like kind of like inebriated.
I think we go to spoilers. Both books have been out long enough, so people can
so she
suck
smells
it
a
up.
flower that makes her like pretty drunk.
I love that scene.
And it's mostly worn off at this point, but they literally were like about to kiss and she's like, kiss me. And he's like, they were gonna kiss. Like my editor suggested it. And I was like, you're right. This would be a good point. I could probably make it work. And then I went in and I couldn't do it because I was like, he wouldn't kiss her because he knows that she's like slightly inebriated still. And he would never take advantage of her like that. Like he just wouldn't. And in her head, that's not what it is. And my mom's like, but he wouldn't be. And I'm like, I know, but in his mentality, that's the only reason she would be asking him to do that. And he is a villain, but he's not like a monster psychopath. Like he's not gonna kiss a girl that's under the influence. Like he believes in consent. He's a villain. He believes in consent.
I mean, that just shows the level of villaininess. That's not the right word.
No, I know. I like
non-consent shows.
Yes, correct. So I was like, he's not that kind of villain. Like he is like a mwahaha villain, not like a man or bear villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't like force it or make it work, but I kind of had in the mind where I was like, I'm gonna respect the characters and what they want to do, and if this happens and it like happens and it like on page, then that's how it happens. And I know like that's not always the answer people want. People like, want to know like, is it gonna happen or is it not? Just so I can like prepare. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know.
I will say. I was merely satisfied by the idea of him saying breast in his own head. And when he when she's in his bedroom and he sees the silhouette of her body through her nightgown and he's like, oh, and he saw her breast. I was like, ooh, scandalous breast.
I love that line because I remember writing that and I had to like break because I was laughing so hard and I was like, this is so stupid because I'm writing this. Like, this is embarrassing how hard I'm like.
I would like to kind of like the level of angst is almost like a modern Pride and Prejudice where it's like the hands graze, but what's the next level?
Yeah.
He sees her breast silhouette. And
he sees like he caught side boob and he literally panicked. Like, oh my God. It was truly so funny because in that moment, I remember because in his head, he's like, I am like, he's giving himself like an evil pep talk. Like, I am evil. Like, I am the villain. Like, I am scary. I am this. And then he's like, he caught the side of her breast and he's like, I'm going to die.
Wait, remind me, he's not a virgin, is he? No, he's not a virgin.
No.
Okay, yeah. I was like, wait a minute.
So Edward Cullen coded now.
Like, oh my God, that's boob.
No, he sort of talks about in book 1, there's like and it's a short moment, so it's not like easily catchable, but he has a moment where he talks about like how he never thought of, like he always thought of sex as kind of like transactional, where it's like, you're just kind of like taking care of a physical need, like there's no other reason for it. So I would say like he's maybe an emotional version.
He's never made love. He's never.
Yeah, it's been like he's never really been like properly or he doesn't really understand like love in that way. The way he grew up, and you learn more about that in book 3, and we up the ante a lot more in book 3. I did not. There was actually a point where I was like, "Whoa, you guys." Okay. And it was like early in the book. Like normally I make you wait. Like my friend Stacey McEwen, who's the author of the Ledge trilogy.
Yeah.
Yes. We saw each other at her event. She texted me when she was reading Apprentice and she counted the pages in book 1 and then the pages in book 2 it took to get to their makeout. And she was like, you made me wait like 500 pages just for them to like use tongue and I hate you.
You gotta make it good. Otherwise, you're going to get like a Lorelai Luke situation, and it's like, okay, well now they're together. What happens? It's like
Yeah,
you got to make
I
it.
also get bored if it's like too soon. I don't know. I like to be like in pain a little bit waiting for it. And I think that's just because all of my favorite romances growing up were slow burns, and the payoff for them is just always like so much better when you have to like really wait for it and really get invested in them as a couple. And I also just their chemistry outside of like physical stuff is just so fun for me to write.
Yeah.
Like them just having a conversation, like they're always like fighting but not actually fighting, which banter wise is hilarious for me because I'm like they're like they really want to do it, but like they're just gonna fight instead.
I can't wait because you the way this whole started was that you would kind of act it out on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for when they finally get together and you kind of act out like not the whole scene, but like the pillow talk. Like I would just love to see what pillow talk with the two of them would look like.
Oh my, can you imagine me trying to do a scene like that just by myself? Because it's just me.
Like, I know, just laying on the side. You're like, hey.
There was kind of an episode like that where I did the one bed trope, and it was hilarious because I wanted it to look like she woke up on his chest. So I think I put like a suit jacket on one of my pillows. And I like, just so you could like see a suit jacket, like that looked like it was a body. And it was so, I was like, if anyone walks in right now, this is going to look crazy.
If anyone saw the non-edited version of you like prepping the pillow, because you have to hit record prior. So
yes, it is truly humbling, like doing that by yourself. It's a really, really humanizing moment for me as a person, and I'm like, you know what? This pillow is my man. My man.
Sometimes our pillow is our man. Sometimes we're
Sometimes
single.
our pillow is our
Sometimes it's
man,
2025 and we're still single. What? It's me. Okay, so
Whatever works.
yeah. So since we're talking about the villain, let's just kind of go into our villain question. And he really does continue to be one of my favorite leads because he's just like such a soft boy, but also like, no, I'm willing to kill anyone, but also, you know, he's just a little emotional, and he goes through it in this whole series. Like, you love to have him work through his trauma. And what I love about this though is that the difference in trauma reactions between Evie and Tristan, it's very realistic because people do not handle it in a one size fits all. And one goes kind of like Evie. I feel like she kind of goes a little reckless where she's like, let's dive into everything. And then Tristan, you really see him holding back, you know, like, you know, Evie's like swinging from the chandelier, taking poisons, and is just like, woo. And Tristan's like, no, not a fan of this. Did you always intend for these two to be opposites in that way? Because we talked the last time of like that they were kind of mirrors in many ways. And that was very book one, but in book two, you kind of start to see more opposites, I feel like.
Yeah, it was definitely intentional, and it also just sort of is how they've evolved naturally with the series. But I get a question a lot where it was always my favorite way to answer a question because I was like, oh, that was so clever. I'm going to use that every time someone asks. Not to, I'm like, I do myself. But they were like, which character are you more like? And I always say like Evie and the villain are two sides of the same coin, and I am the coin. And
that is
they
a
are
great
like,
answer. That was a good
thank
answer.
you. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
I was like, that came from my head.
Yeah.
Maybe. Who
should,
knows?
Like, be in Write or something. That'd be great.
Maybe someday. Who knows? Yeah. They're very like similar but opposite. So like they have had similar experience in life where they've kind of had their affections taken for granted or thrown away. And Evie kind of, her response to that is, I'm going to try so hard all the time to make everybody like me and to make sure everybody's happy with me. And I'm going to go out of my way to help people, even if they're not trying to help me. And the villain, on the other hand, has similar experiences in life, but his is to just, completely like close himself off for self-preservation. And I think that Evie also, her recklessness, I think a lot of it comes from the fact that like she sort of grew up way quicker than she was supposed to.
Yeah.
She basically became a mother at 13 to her baby sister, and she had to raise her and kind of be a grown up very quickly. And even before that, we touch on this in book 2, we touch on it more in book 3, where Evie kind of had to like be the solid ground for her family when everything was kind of erratic, when her mother was going through one of her like depressive moods, and she's always trying to make everybody happy and like not trying to make a fuss or make a splash. She's trying to like keep it contained. And I think that in adulthood, that's manifested for her in the recklessness, because she never really got to get that stuff out as a kid. Like she never got to really be fully a kid. And there's actually a line about this in book 3 that made me cry, because I was like, girl, what? Because she basically said that like, if I'm immature, I'm owed that. Like I'm owed the ability to like to be silly and to play and to be childish, because I didn't get to do that when I was a kid. So I'm owed that now. So somebody was like saying like she acts like a kid, and she's like, maybe I do, but I'm owed that. Like I'm owed that. And I was like, that's true, because sometimes people don't always get to be kids when they're supposed to be kids.
Yeah. I love that so much.
And then when you grow up, you should be able to do all the things that make you feel like you're protecting that part of yourself that didn't really get to flourish when it should have. So yeah, Evie is a really, really fun character for me to explore for that reason, because, and then Tristan on the other hand too, is like every second it's like trying to crack him open like an egg. My agent literally was like, called him emotionally constipated. And I was like, oh my God, he is. God. I was like, that was the funniest way to describe him ever. But yeah, he struggles with emotion, because I think that any time that he's really shown emotion, he was punished for it. And it's the same thing as like, if you touch a flame, you learn not to touch it, because it burns, it hurts. So if you're, showing emotion and people are punishing you for it, you kind of like hardwire yourself to like not show it, because it's gonna lead to hurt.
Yeah. Which makes sense why he'd be more reserved in some of his trauma reactions, because he knows that any kind of big reaction would be bad.
Yeah.
And punished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you're talking about like childhood trauma, and I'm looking over at Amy, because it's like both of us were forced to grow up young, not for dead mother reasons, but Amy did have to me like putting your like life on.
No, it's okay.
You did raise your little sister at 13.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, you had many siblings, and your mom and
I have many siblings, but I was a second parent for my entire 20s. So I feel I say the same thing. I am owed my 20s, even though I'm halfway through my 30s. So
absolutely you are.
I'm going to do the spontaneous, reckless things.
We're going to go to get a Disney pass. We're going to take care of that child. Yeah. And so it's funny. You're saying that, and I'm like,
yeah, I really identify. I really identify with Evie. Like, I love her because I feel like she's so realistic.
I'm glad. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's great that you can capture that feeling though, without you're not like, well, I too had this exact identical experience. So that just kind of like goes to your ability as an author to be like, I can feel, I can understand, I can sympathize, and I can express that very well.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
And
yeah, good job.
I know. Good job, everyone. Nice little plot here.
I'm gonna do
it. So why don't we stay on the character of Evie? She went from, okay, I kissed Tristan, now I must always kiss Tristan. Yeah. And she was just very brave with like, we're going to talk about this now, and not letting him get away with the avoiding of it all. Would you say that Evie's your most emotionally brave character, or is there someone else that you feel like gets the Brave Award?
I think that they all the characters would probably take the Brave Award in different things. I think that for Evie, probably emotionally is probably the bravest, because she puts herself out there so often.
Yeah.
And she has been hurt, like, doing that. Similar to Tristan, like, she's been punished for having big emotions, and but she doesn't, like, she'll come back swinging harder, because in her mind, I just have to push further, and it'll get better if I keep pushing. Which, sometimes gets her into trouble, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I would say that Evie is probably the most emotionally brave character, just because she is always putting herself into situations where she stands to be toppled by things. And I like her evolution through all three of the books, because I feel like, especially, I was rereading a scene from book 1 just to like reference for something in book 3, and I was like, she is so much more. I almost didn't see it, because it's kind of like when you're with a little kid every day and you're watching them grow, but I don't realize, because you're with them every day, how big they've gotten.
Yeah.
And so like one day you look back at an old picture and you're like, oh my gosh, you like grew a lot. Like, that's wild. It's kind of like how I feel about my characters. If I go back and look at them in an old scene and I look at them now, I'm like, oh, you guys have really grown. Like,
Yeah.
you've really evolved. But Evie especially, like, she's so much more confident and confrontational in book 3 as well. Like, even more so in book 3, I think, where she, instead of just her, I think natural inclination is like, let me smooth things over and make sure everybody's happy. And now she's more of like, no, actually, like, let's put it all out there, because I need to know what we're doing and where things are going. And it's never gotten me anywhere just burying things. So, and I think that that's a challenge for Tristan, because nobody usually challenges him on his, like, repressing his feelings. Like, as close as Tatiana and Edwin have been to him in his time in the office, like before Evie came into the picture. Yeah. Like, they weren't ones to challenge him on his moods or his behaviors, because they just didn't really feel like, I think it was their place. And Evie's good for him and he's good for her, because he kind of pulls that out of her. Like, he makes her want to challenge him, and vice versa. Like, he feels more with her, and it's less scary because she makes him kind of feel safer to do that. Yeah. So that's also why I love their scenes together. They're both very harmonious with the way that they talk to one another.
We'll be right back.
It's great because especially where you have the ending of book 1, again, spoilers galore here, where she never pushed her dad, right? Like, she never questioned anything. She never, was like, hey, I really need help here. She just went along with it. And then in book 2, it is an absolute, shift from that, because she's like, well, that didn't work out for me. Yeah. Look at that. Like, now what happens when I do shift, or when I do push? I'm going to stab my dad in the thigh. That's what I'm going to do, which was cathartic. I'm not going to lie.
I actually had to dim that scene down a little bit because it went really dark. And my editor was like, I'm not mad about, like, how dark it got. She's like, but
I think we need to pull back.
She's like, I feel like it's too big of, like, we gotta, like, ease
into. This is like for the girls who have the daddy issues. This is for you.
I was having, like, a really bad day, I think, that day, and I really just took it out on the dad. I was like, you know what? You must, like, it's you and me alone in this dungeon. Yeah, I did have to pull back a little bit because there was a point where she just got, like, really cruel, and my editor was like, this is really not. And I went, you're right, I know. It was, like, a bad day.
I mean, her stabbing him in the thigh, I was, like, I was shocked. So, yeah, I can't imagine.
And I think that was meant to be a moment for her because, when you go back and edit, it's fun because you're like, the characters so well that by the time you reread the story, you're like, they'd never do that. What was I doing? But I was like, I think she would, like, the reason I kept that, though, is I was like, she would snap and lose her temper, and she would have a moment where she was kind of grappling with, like, a darker part of her and the part of her that she wants to really hold on to, which is, like, the good, soft part of her that forgives and moves on. And it's like, battling between the two. It was like what they say, like, the two wolves inside you, and the one you feed is the one that, I forget the end of the saying. It's a really good saying. It's like the one that thrives. It's the one you feed. So yeah, it was originally a little bit of a different scene. But yeah, I think that same thing with book 2. This is another spoiler. If you haven't read book 2, it's coming. But I think that if Evie had confronted Gideon prior to that, like prior to finding out about her dad, she would have had a very different reaction to seeing him again. She had quite a violent reaction to seeing him in book 2 because she was really pissed at him for not coming back. She's like, I basically had to do everything by myself because I thought you were dead. Yeah. And meanwhile, you were just, like, chilling
living your life as a knight, like, just having a good time.
Living your best life. Like, I remember that originally that flashback scene wasn't there, and when we were going back to edit, my editor was like, I'm kind of bummed that we didn't see their reunion on page. And I went, oh, I can definitely, I know what the scene looks like let me just get it down. And then we added it into that chapter, and I remember laughing so hard because she's just throwing stuff at him like rocks, and he's like, can you stop, like, start.
And it's, it's not like this happy reunion. It's like, you abandon us. You suck so hard.
Yeah. And I think as much as I would have loved to give like a Disney-esque, like, oh, we all is forgiven reunion, I think that it means more when she forgives him at the end of the book, or like takes a step closer to forgiving him, because she still struggles a little bit with him in book 3, but it's a bigger step towards forgiving him, because it's sort of a moment that you have with your siblings where you're like, as much as like we could hurt each other, we both have been hurt by the same people because we were both children and raised by the same people that hurt us.
And that's where it comes down to, is the ones who messed up the most were the parents that raised them.
Yeah. And I think that was the hard thing that her and Gideon had to like kind of learn to juggle together.
Which I can't wait for book 3, because I know like the mom wasn't a perfect mom either.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in book 3, and I think that's I always have these prideful moments in Evie when she has like a stand up for herself moment where she's like, no, I'm not just gonna let this slide. Like, you messed up. And I'm going to tell you messed up, and I'm not going to forgive you yet because you messed up. Like, all these people. I was like, really, the only one that hasn't messed with her is Lissa. Lissa's the only one that hasn't really, like, screwed with her life. Or, well, she's a little sister.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like if you had given their reunion, like that Disney-esque reunion, it would have really cheapened Evie's character. I feel like you made her so much more three-dimensional and relatable because of her anger towards her brother.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people get angry at their family all the time for stupid stuff. Like, this is a legitimate reason to be
like
angry.
A big thing to be mad. Yeah, and I have brothers, and we fight all the time, and I love my brothers so much, like more than anything. Like, I'd do anything for them. And they're I love them as people as well as brothers, but they're siblings, and siblings are just sometimes they just know exactly what buttons to push to get you to like go over the edge, because they know you better than anybody else.
Yeah.
There's a good thing and a bad thing.
There's this thing that happens when you're forced to grow up too young and your parents rely on you, and there's this moment of reckoning, I feel like, and I think Amy would agree, the father figure, the mother figure, where there's just kind of like, I'm an adult. Like, you cannot treat me like a child because I had to grow up because of your actions, and you do not get to talk to me like that. Where a lot of times, like, I feel like parents will come in and be like, I'm your father, I'm your mother. And it's like, and I'm the one you leaned on. So now you have to respect me in a way that a parent shouldn't have to respect a child. But here we are. This is your consequences of your actions. So I look forward to just seeing more of that. And I feel like I got a hint of that with Gideon, where she's like, no, I'm not your little sister. I am the person. I mean, I am obviously, but it's like, I am the person that raised our little sister. I'm the one who had to deal with our abusive father. You will not speak to me like a big brother.
Yeah. And I think that was something, their relationship is really interesting. And I love, like, really, what's the right word? I love like family dynamics that aren't like perfect, that aren't like woven really happy all the time, because that's just, no family I think is like that. Even the family that like cookie cutter like looks perfect from the outside has issues and conflicts, and I think that's what makes a family though, in a lot of ways, because you're not really a family if you're acting like everything's perfect all the time. Like, families fight, families have issues, families have wildly different people in them that conflict on different things. So family dynamics is something I love writing about, and that's definitely a big theme through book 3 as well, not just with Evie's family, but with the villain's family.
If you ever met anyone who's like never fought with their family, they're always a little weird. I don't know, where they're
I don't think I actually have. I didn't even realize.
Well, I mean, you said you have brothers and you fight.
I would imagine though. Oh, I have 3 brothers.
Yeah,
and
I have no doubt you fought with your brothers verbally.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm saying I've never met anybody that hasn't fought with their family. Like, I would imagine they would be
I've met people where it's just like they live in a family where everything just kind of gets brushed underneath the rug. Like no one.
That's no good. That's no good either. I always say that. Like my fiance's mom always asks, like, we have such a big family, and she's like, "How are you guys still so close? Though, like, we're a really, really tight knit group of people."
Yeah.
And we're like, because we fight like everything out loud, like everything's out loud, and then it's over in 10 minutes. Like, like, truly, you could be screaming at each other, and then 5 minutes later, you're like, "Do you want to go to Wawa and get a Slurpee?"
I can't be mad at my mom more than 5 minutes, and then without calling her immediately, being like, "I did not like what you did there," and like,
it's over. But you get it. It's healthy to get things out.
But then that, like, I'm also extremely close to my mom, so I'll
you fight with the people you feel close with.
Absolutely,
because you feel safe.
Yeah, it feels safe to like have conflict.
Well, I don't want to have conflict with you right now, Amy. Let's just not. Let's like let's avoid, please. Thank you.
We're fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so a little bit of a shift here, but we're still talking about Evie and the villain before we ask some of the other supporting characters. So we love the exploration of how each character is trying to mask or disguise what they're really feeling behind a persona. Which is kind of like, we're talking about like Evie smiles a lot, even though she's sad and broken, even though she's expressing herself, but she still has that smile that she's, kind of hiding behind. And then Tristan he's like, but like, what if I'm more of a villain? What if I kill more people? And ultimately it's because he's a sad soft boy.
Baby girl.
He is baby girl. He's just such a sad boy. But that's towards like, Evie and Lissa. So how intentional was this exploration? And did you discover something you didn't know about those characters along the way? Like, did it surprise you how much of a soft boy the villain was?
Yeah, I think that when I first started writing him, I knew he was like internally like sweet in private ways, like in really subtle, I'm not going to tell you that I did this sort of ways. But no, I think that like the more I've explored his backstory, the more he's become so endearing to me, because there's a flashback scene in book 2 where you kind of you get a peek into kind of like what his childhood was like. And he was always like shy and quiet, but he was sweet. Like it was quiet, shy, sweet boy, like with good intentions. And you kind of see it with Tatiana in book 1, where she talks about like how he was one of the only people that showed up to her birthday just for her, and he baked her a cake. And like he does like little things like that for people to show that he cares, because he does care an exceptional amount. It just scares him so much to care. And the reason he's so closed off is one of the first people to kind of give him that validation he was craving from both of his parents, like took him under his wing, made him feel like you're important, you matter, like you're so important here, and then just crushed him. And basically affirmed like all the things he had already feared about himself and made it a million times worse, because now he's like, well, now I'm dangerous. I'm not just a little bit of an outcast. I'm dangerous, and people are afraid of me, and people don't want to be around me. And the best way to protect yourself is just to ensure that people stay away, like people don't come near you, or that people continue to be afraid, because if that's the choice you're making. He has a line about that where this line threw me, because I was like, oh my God, you poor boy. And I'm like, it's always funny because I'm like, it's coming out of my head, but I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen.
I get happening?
That. But he basically says that like he always thought if he like ruined things with intention, that he would never do it by accident ever again.
And that makes sense.
And he like, now every time that he like messes up with Evie, he's like, well, I said on purpose, I do it on purpose, and now it's happening by accident with someone I don't want to ruin things with. So yeah, I think a lot of his character was intentional, but he and Evie are always surprising me with the things that they're doing and the things that they say. And when I go into their backstories, I always feel like really protective of both of them. Like I want to go back into their childhoods and like protect them from all the hurt them, because they're just so precious. But I think that that's also why they're so like well matched, even though they're so different, because they both are such surface level people to some people, but they both understand that there's something else beneath that. And it kind of rings something true in both of them. So yeah, I think they've surprised me. Some things I knew, some things I'm surprised by. They really do feel like real people to me. So it's kind of like I'm talking to someone I know, and then I learned something about them that I didn't know already, and it surprised me because I didn't know that fact about them. And I'm like, oh, but it just makes them like
another little
more
factoid
person to me. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're so interesting.
It makes sense. And sometimes life is just about finding the persons whose trauma complements your trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. It always, I love Rent.
The musical?
Yes. And there's this song where they're saying, I should have like let it to that.
I really love paying. I'm like, because I paid my rent yesterday too.
I was rewatching it though, and there's that one song that Mimi and Roger sing, like their love song, and she's like, I'm looking for baggage that goes with mine. And I was like, that's so relatable.
I just need it to color coordinate a little bit. I need it to,
go together. Like,
yeah,
it needs to fit. Yeah.
I like to imagine my baggage has like sometimes of that like color, like, the protector over it, but like that's therapy.
Yes,
exactly. It's not like the scuffed up kind, which ironically enough, my literal baggage is quite scuffed up. So that's.
Oh, my suitcase that's been to Australia with me and Brazil and like all these other places in the US. Last trip was to Mexico. Delta like ripped the third wheel off of this. I was so sad. I was like, no, you poor thing. I was like, this is your final trip.
So Becky is one of our favorite characters.
Me too. I love Becky.
And I just loved her even more in book 2, the more that time we got to spend with her. And, I was really impressed with, there's a lot of, as you've talked about, family dynamics in this series. And I love that we got to see Becky's backstory and, fighting against your family for what you think is right. Why was that theme important for you to include in this story?
I think that I always like to explore different family dynamics in any character because nobody comes from the exact same background or the exact same family dynamic. We all grow up really differently with different people. And I think that there's been times in my life, I'm really lucky that I have my like immediate close family. We agree on all the fundamentally important things, which makes it really easy to be very close to my family. But I think that I've had friends in the past that kind of become like a part of my family that don't always have those agreements with their families and it it doesn't even, it's such a gray area. And I think when we're kids we look at those things like so black and white, like you're a bad person and you're a good person and this is a bad family and this is a good family and this is a bad parent and this is a good parent, and then you become a grown up and the world becomes much more gray because it isn't actually like that, where a lot of the times there's families where someone will do something wrong and you have to kind of ask yourself the question, does that make them a bad parent, a bad person? Does it mean that they are also a human being that's learning the same way a kid is? And I think that's come from too, like becoming an adult and looking at my parents. And I have really amazing parents. I'm super, super lucky. But they're not perfect. They're human beings. There's things that we've sorted through together as I've become an adult and sorted through my own issues. And that I look at my parents now very much like they're humans. Like I think that as a kid, if I would look at something that someone said or did, I would think of it like, oh, well, that was wrong and that was a bad. And I'm like, no, I think it was just that my parents are also learning how to be parents.
Yeah.
And they're also 100% of the time doing the best possible job that they can do. And that means when you become an adult, I think you can look at that and go, that means everything. That means everything, that they want to be the best thing they can be for me. And if they don't always get it right, I can have the grace and the forgiveness to be like, well, I don't always get it right either.
Yeah. I mean, they were making it up as they go. I mean, not your parents, all parents, but like, they're just all trying to like, I guess this is what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I have this sort of moment where, I'll look back at old pictures of my mom and I'm like, she at one point was my age. And she was at one point, like, I pictured trying to parent someone and I'm like, I'm a baby. Like I I'm a child. And my mom had her first kid at 25. I'm 27. Like, I can't even imagine parenting like that
A
young.
2-year-old.
Yeah, your brain's barely cooked at that point. Like,
Yeah.
it's barely done, like, growing. I don't know. I think that Becky's story was really appealing to me because I think that there's so many times in life where you love your family despite things, and that's kind of what love, unconditional love, really is that even when you don't agree with their choices, there's still love there. And I like the complication of that because it's just, life is just not neat and tied with a bow. And as warm and cozy as I like my books to feel, I also kind of like to explore things that are difficult in a safe space to do it. So I'll sometimes explore a theme that I think is really hard to bear in real life, but I try to do it within the books and make it feel like this is a safe place to think about this and a safe place to figure out how this makes you feel. And that's for me writing it as well. Like, there's things that I process through my writing. Becky's story hit home really hard for me because I love her brother dynamic. I have, she kind of has a moment where she says, this is part of the dedication because book 2 is dedicated to my brothers. And she says that, you know, brothers are like a curious thing. They make your heart lighter even at its heaviest. And that's how I feel about my brothers. Like, we fought tooth and nail growing up because we just disagreed on a lot of stuff because we're, you know, siblings and they were boys and I was a really girly girl and I just didn't care about the things that they cared about and they didn't care about the things that I cared about. But they make me laugh more than anyone else in the world. So even when they're driving me bananas, bonkers, like I like feel so happy when I'm with them.
Yeah.
And for Becky, it was an extra layer of complication because she does feel like really at home with her brothers, but at the same time, she's kind of juggling this dynamic with her parents, but she also loves her parents and she loves the home she grew up in. She just doesn't, I think there's something to be said. She doesn't agree with them. And there's also something to be said too for kind of choosing your own course in life and knowing that home is always there if I want to go back. But I'm going to be who I am where I see myself being the best version of myself. And that's sort of like where her story came from.
I love that. I love that. Where do you land with your brothers, like age-wise?
I'm third down. So I have 2 older brothers and then I have a baby brother. He's literally 25, but he's my baby. Yeah. And then I have my mom's older sister lived across the street growing up and she had 4 boys.
Oh, wow.
So it felt like I had 7 brothers.
Yeah.
Because they were in and out a lot. And we all had like a buddy in age because there's 4. So I had my cousin who was like my age and then oldest same age, second same age. Like my mom and her sister just like really coordinated it.
Yeah, they really planned it out.
They really plotted it out.
Amy has 4 brothers. So
oh my gosh, Amy. Look at us.
Yeah. Yeah, no, everything you're saying resonates, except I was the oldest, so I at least got to boss
Oh
them
my
around.
gosh. So you were like taking on like the oldest sibling, like parent role too, which is like,
funny whenever I think I've only one time out of all of our years of friendship seen you with all of your brothers. And it's the weirdest thing where I was like, I don't know, I'm like, it's like I knew all this, but now I'm like, you're an oldest sibling. Like I knew that, but it also
is funny.
And you have so many boys around you.
It is. I think when people hear brother dynamic, do you ever get this where they're like, oh, were you such a tomboy? And I'm like, no, I wasn't. And I quite literally was quoted to my mom saying like, I want to do what the boys are doing, but I want to wear a beautiful dress.
Oh,
nice.
I love that.
I was like, I don't want to wear like
cargo pants.
I want to wear my pretty tutu.
I don't know. I don't think you were full tomboy, Amy. I mean, you wanted your brother to be the prince to dance with you.
Yeah. You know, if any of my masculine qualities, it's my mom's fault. Like,
Yup. Relatable. You're multifaceted. Like, you're
that's
a multifaceted person. It's important.
So because you adore us, and this has been such a wonderful conversation, and therefore, you know, we've buttered you up for this entire lead up to this question. Is there anything that you can tease out and tell us about book 3?
Yeah, book 3 is gonna be any characters we haven't like really gone into yet. We're gonna go into them way more in book 3.
Okay.
So anyone we haven't like really explored. We've kind of just brushed the surface of them. And then we're going to go deeper on characters that we already know. Like, we're going to get more of the villain's backstory. We're going to get more of Kingsley's backstory.
Love Kingsley. Yeah.
I can say now, because I teased it in a video, that there is going to be a Kingsley POV in book 3.
Oh.
And it was literally, I wrote it and I laughed so hard because I was like, this is the most absurd chapter I've ever written.
From a point of view of a frog.
I've never done anything like that. And I truly like could not believe what I was doing until I was like at the end and I went, oh my God. Like, right. No, it was so funny. Yeah, book 3, I actually felt like the most confident writing book 3 than I've ever felt.
Do you know what's your favorite chapter?
You know what? I'm not going to say just because numbers wise.
Oh, gotcha.
They always change. Because someone will be like, especially towards the end when you're like chopping and editing and it's about to go to the print, people will be like, I love this chapter. And I'm like, oh, what chapter was that? I always go, what happened in the chapter?
So, beginning, middle, end.
Yeah, I think that, oh gosh.
Favorite moment. Doesn't have to be the whole favorite section, but just one of your...
I think that it's like middle to end. There's a chapter that I really love, and then the very, very last page of the book.
Is this a 5-book series?
There are 4 books planned.
Okay. Wait, I didn't realize this is the last one.
No. This is number 3.
Thank God. Wait, hold on.
I'm talking about it too, though. I'm confusing you because I submitted the first draft to my editor, so in my head I
confused myself. This is the second to last book, and then the last book will probably come out. You mean you can't say you don't know for sure, but like 2026-ish is the best guess.
Yeah. We've been doing like pretty much yearly releases, and I feel like I can stick to that. It hasn't taken me down yet, and I feel like it's pretty doable for these books. I get like itchy if I don't write them. Like if I'm not in that world for a long period of time, I feel like something has gone awry. Like I need to sit down and do it.
I'm so curious. I mean, I don't want to like freak you out or, ask you too many future questions, but I'm so curious to see what happens.
Ask me off the record later.
Okay, yes. We'll ask you off the record, but you do have something else coming out this year, Amy.
So you're part of an anthology
called
The Secret Romantics Book of Magic, which is a collection of 12 short stories from 12 different authors.
Nice.
So what can you tell us about it, and how different was that writing process for you?
I'm so excited because I don't even know if I realized that they had announced it, because I had it I couldn't tell people what it was for so long. I was like, people are like, what are you working on? I'm like, I'm working on, I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I'm working on something else. This was actually really, really fun because it was my first time writing outside of the Assistant to the Villain universe, or at least for publishing purposes. And it was really fun. I had never, it's because it's a short story, so it was like much shorter than a novel. And it was almost a little challenging because you have to, get a full story arc within like a really finite amount of pages and a kind of a full, like almost romantic arc. But it was really, really fun. I can tell you that it's a urban fantasy type of deal. And I was inspired to write it because I was in New York, and I was walking and this woman's glasses got like knocked off her face, and she like spent like a good 2 minutes like looking for them because it was dark and she was older and nobody helped her, and it was driving me insane. So I stopped and I turned around and I gave her her glasses, and she was like, thank you. And I was like, welcome. And it wasn't like a big thing, but it stuck in my brain. And then I thought, like, what if she was like, what if she was like an enchantress from another world and it was attached? And, so that's kind of where the base of the story came from without giving too much away. And it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of the two things that would meet. I think it would be like, oh God, it has like an aquamarine type beat without the mermaids. I don't know how to, I'll think of a better way to pitch this. It's really cute and it was a lot of fun, and I think I had like a spicier scene in that story, which was hilarious because I had never written a scene like that to that degree ever. And I was sitting on my friend's couch when I did it, and I looked up and I went, oh, I wrote a spicy scene, and she went, on my couch, like she was like, I'm so honored it was on my couch. I was like, right here. We're always going to remember it was right here. I was like, you can never get rid of this couch now.
I know, the couch is memorialized. That's where
I was like, this is a magic couch. Like,
you come back to her couch every single time to write a spicy scene.
I do. I write on that couch in that corner a lot because I said that couch is magic. Like, something about that couch gets the flow going.
I understand that. I love that. I feel like anthologies are kind of making a comeback. They were, Amy and I did our bachelor's in creative writing. Don't recommend it. And we had to do a lot of short, like it was strictly short stories.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Short stories are hard, and
yeah.
It's like they're aggressive, but
and we read a lot of anthologies.
I will say that my favorite was Joyce Carol Oates, though, from early Joyce, like 70s Joyce, but not 90s Joyce. I hope that they're making a comeback because despite me hating having been forced to write so many in college days, I do enjoy reading them.
Yeah, I do.
I do too. And I think it's nice too if you don't want to sit and commit to something really long. And anthologies are nice too because you get a taste of a bunch of different things. It also weirdly takes me back to childhood when we had those like giant fairy tale books.
Yeah.
And each like there would be different fairy tales all throughout the book, and you could jump through them. I loved those.
That's such a good point.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about it.
They should make a comeback. Little nostalgia.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. You do it. You already did.
Yeah.
No,
I did. I'll do it again.
We'll go read it. I promise. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know what you think.
Thank you so much for coming on, for being part of this. I like the best way I can describe you is if a modern Disney princess decided to write books and was like there's just something like magical about you of just like, but like how does like, but if there was like a modern version, you know, that's
a modern Disney princess who didn't have to filter herself.
Exactly.
I'm so honored. Like I literally am gonna cry.
You're always the most like sweet person, and then even when I got to meet you in person, I was like, oh my god, and you're still so sweet in person too.
Oh my god, you guys are literally gonna cry.
I can't wait to see you again at Romantasy Con.
Yes, I'll get to see you guys at Romantasy Con. I can't wait.
Automatically just like shouldering our way in to go see you and stuff.
No. Just text. You have my number. Just text me. I'll find
your number every time.
I thought it's so creepy. I'll find you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll see what, I mean, like, I think we have mutuals and stuff, so I'm sure everyone's doing
we'll hang. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
we can
grab a lot of fun. But, and I want to see your, pretty ball gown dress. Go live your best Disney princess.
Yes, we'll dance. It'll be so fun.
Get a tiara. Definitely get a tiara.
I need to get a tiara for sure.
Thank you again so much. We've enjoyed this thoroughly, and so we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. This week, we're discussing A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you'd like to submit your take on any of the books we plan to discuss later this spring, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, where we ask for listener submissions.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk. Bye.